You don't leave your First Amendment at the door when you join the GOP.
Okay, I just got home from the Salt Lake County Executive Committee meeting of the GOP. I want to give an update about what happened. We have two party members, Kaye Sanderson and Laurel Fetzer, who have been targeted for removal from the Republican Party. You see something, you say something, they saw something that they were concerned about that involved election interference, and reported that, which is the right thing to do. It's a proper American thing to do. And it's actually in the bylaws and the ethics, it says that you need to report things if you find something that you think is a problem. So they did that, and now the party is targeting them. They should have freedom of speech and the right to petition the government when they see problems. And you don't check that at the door when you join the Republican Party. So we had a hearing tonight, and right from the start, there was a motion made by Jensen that against the agenda because the meeting never should happen. It was not properly notified. We were supposed to be given 30 days notice before the meeting. First it was scheduled as a meeting, and then it was turned to a hearing. They should have had time to call counsel. They asked me to represent them tonight, but we needed more time to prepare for this hearing. We should have had time to be able to contact witnesses. We did not have even more than 11 days since any notice went out, and even as late as last night, we finally were given the information about where the location was and the time. All of that should have been given to us at least 30 days in advance. So the meeting never should have happened. It was outside of the scope of the executive committee. We never were given the cause of action to know what bylaws they were accused of breaking. So tons of concerns. We left after the agenda was adopted. There were some real heroes in the room. So thank you for the members of the Salt Lake executive committee who were in there fighting for due process. I'm going to show some video that we took immediately afterwards as we were waiting for the ruling to come out. And still, even at this time, I believe they're still meeting. We haven't heard any of the results yet.
We're just leaving the executive committee meeting for the GOP, and we were here because they said they had an emergency meeting, and right from the start, Jensen is on the executive committee, and you motioned to point out.
I made a point of order that the meeting itself is out of order because the only purpose of the meeting was to hold a Robert's Rules trial to remove two people from all of their party positions, which are elected, and they were not properly noticed, and I referenced the specific Robert's Rule section where it says to have a trial you need notice, and it recommends 30 days, I believe, and they only got 24 hours or less because the agenda was amended with less than 24 hours notice.
10:30 last time.
And
he declared an emergency meeting, and then yesterday on the agenda he said it's a trial and this is how the trial will run. And I'm like, the trial and a meeting are very different things, and you have to be able to be, have an attorney, have people witness for you, be able to cross-examine, and then have a guilty verdict before you get any kind of removal. And that's a whole different thing than what they were doing tonight.
Right. So Laurel and Kaye were the subject of the meeting today because they have been trying to hold the party to standards of election integrity and to report concerns that they had to the party, which should be a free thing that we do in America, right?
Right. We didn't break any bylaws, and that was really important to us. It's like we just like to follow the rules, and the rules that we have say, our platform specifically says that that is your duty, that you need to root out and stop corruption. So we're being removed because we were brave enough to call them out and say, this looks like corruption, and we're going to report it. And we warned them ahead of time. Tracy provided a beautiful letter. I provided them with a letter telling them why they shouldn't be doing this, and they decided to do it anyway. So at that point, we were included by association because it was a majority thing. So we had to protect ourselves because otherwise we're lumped in with that group that broke the rules. So that's where we're at with it, and we stand by our
We
decision.
all wrote letters to the whole executive committee explaining why we did it, and that really the whole point was to get the district attorneys to tell them to follow their rules, not take them to prison or anything.
Yeah,
it was just to
desist.
get them to
cease and desist.
cease and desist.
And there
order.
was no malice, no recklessness. All the things they were accusing us of, none of that is true. As a matter of fact, if we were malicious, we wouldn't have given them warnings and letters and told them, hey, this is why we disagree with this. This is why you shouldn't do it, because I care about you. I don't want you to put yourself in a liability situation. But they went ahead and did it anyway at the encouragement of the party chair, Mike Carey.
Right. So it's the whole idea, if you see something, you say something. So if you see problems with election fraud or election interference, and in this case what happened was the party wanted to endorse certain Republican candidates and others would not be endorsed. And
For the municipal.
for municipal, right? When they
Not
were
county,
multiple
but just for the
Republicans.
the cities.
Nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan races.
Yes, and so without giving it to a vote to all of the delegates, and it's outside of the scope of the bylaws, it should not have happened. So they were right in raising these questions, and they did exactly what you have: your First Amendment right to freedom of speech and a First Amendment right to petition the government for redress of grievances. That's exactly what they did. Both of those are protected by the First Amendment. You don't leave your First Amendment at the door when you join the GOP. You should the GOP should be doing all that they can to protect those First Amendment rights. So they did exactly what the bylaws even state to do. If you have problems, you
right.
report it to somebody who can do something about it, and that's what you did. So
And it says that we should report it to the appropriate authorities outside of the party. And so that's what we did.
That's what we did.
Also,
And they said that it injured the name of the party.
Beyond whether or not what they did was right or wrong, everyone should get due process, and it doesn't matter if it's a party thing or a government thing or anything. Everyone should get due process. This is America, and we're the Republican Party. We're supposed to be the party that believes in due process. And this letter was sent out at the start of September, and we're now more than halfway through December. There was months of time to prepare a proper notice for this meeting. There's been 3 regular scheduled executive committee meetings where this was not addressed, and there was plenty of time to give proper notice, and they didn't do it anyway. And just for that reason alone, even if you think the letter they signed is bad, just for that reason alone, this meeting shouldn't be happening because it's not properly noticed, and it's not good due process.
right, we raised that question today. What was the emergency that constituted this meeting? And there was no answer to that because they're trying to follow the rules of an emergency. And they first said that it would be an emergency meeting, and then later it was changed to emergency hearing. And it didn't. And they were supposed to have at least 30 days notice so that you're given a right to counsel, and you should be able to have time to secure counsel. It wasn't until last night, less than 24 hours ahead of time, that you even knew the time or the location. So it was not properly noticed. You should also be able to have witnesses. You didn't have time to prepare witnesses because you didn't receive proper notice. So exactly, no due process in this event at all.
And then they went ahead and changed the agenda at 10:40 last night. So changed the order of who would go first. They also changed the order of, there's not going to be a hearing anymore. We're going to right straight to a Roberts trial. And again, it's like we have had no chance to prepare a defense, to get counsel, and thank goodness that Natalie Clawson came to our rescue and came to try and help us out tonight, despite being sick.
We had great people in there, so thank you, members of the executive committee who pushed back against it, and we appreciate it because that's what we have to do. We have to support the party, and we have to protect the rights of the individual members of the party. These are our heroes. These women are the heroes of our party. They're out knocking doors. They're out representing our party the very best we have, and they should be able to have a right to do that without being pushed down by our county chair. He's going after the wrong people. These are the people who we should be protecting. Additionally, let me add another thing too. We had a question. We don't even know what the cause of action was. And I messaged Mike Carey 2 or 3 times about it on Twitter today. He kept referring to, well, there was an email that went out on December 5th about it. And then there's an email that went out on December 6th about it. And I went back trying to find these emails. The emails reference the code that talks about endorsing candidates. That's not a cause of action. These guys were not endorsing candidates. So the question is, later on in the meeting, he alludes to the fact that they tried to raise concerns about any criminal conduct. Well, that's not against the bylaws, and they're actually supposed to be raising those questions. And so they acted within the scope, but he never notified them how could you prepare a proper defense if you don't even know what you're trying to defend yourself against? We didn't know coming into this if there was a specific cause of action within the bylaws. We still don't know what that is, or if it was a standards of conduct. If it was a standards of conduct concern, it should have gone to the ethics hearing. And there was an ethics hearing, and they voted only for Kaye, not for Laurel, and they voted not to refer it on after that point. So
so many problems with this. They're in the meeting still. We walked out after they notified the agenda and they decided to go forward with it. So we don't believe that this meeting is in order. It should not happen. Anything that happens as a result of this meeting, which is not a trial or whatever, should be null and void. And we have concerns with the process. They should have the right to due process.
One of the objections that Mike and others have made is that there's no substance to the claims being made by this letter of warning, that it's baseless. So if it's baseless, what are we doing here? If there's nothing to it, why don't we just go out to dinner and forget about it? But if there is something to it, then we should be changing direction, not accusing the people who made us aware.
Let's say what was reported by Kaye and Laurel, myself and others to be a crime that they and myself perceived to be a crime. Let's say it's not a crime. If it's not a crime, well, then we're removing people from their party positions for something that is basically the same thing as somebody calling 911, reporting what they think to be a crime, and that not turning out to be a crime, and they're getting kicked off their party positions for that. Now, to me, that sounds like bullcrap.
Yep.
Can I add, this is serious what they're trying to do to them, because they want to actually remove them from the Republican Party, which means they can no longer vote in elections for Republican candidates. So this is really a serious thing and should not be taken lightly, what they're doing in this meeting.
There were a number of us who signed that letter, a whole bunch of us who signed that letter. So if they're going to remove Laurel and if they're going to remove Kaye, they have to remove all of us. I just think it's, go ahead, have your purge, complete your purge, because this is what they're trying to do, is silence dissent. And when you silence dissent, that's the most anti-Republican, anti-American thing you could possibly do. It's wrong.
So they were removed for actually following a party bylaw. The party bylaw encourages its members to direct complaints of a criminal or unlawful nature to the appropriate authorities outside the party. So what Laurel and Kaye did was actually within the bylaws. So anything they do is unlawful to remove them.
I want to add, almost a year ago, I sent a list of Republican Party state delegates that have donated to Democrats that were running for office to the chair. I sent it to the chair before he was the chair, when he was just an executive committee member, because he represented my district at that time, and then later sent it to the entire executive committee. And there has never even been a proposal to take action on any of those people. Yet here we are, removing staunch conservatives from their positions and possibly the party, with a possible suspension for who knows how long. And yet there's never been a single action taken against delegates that are quite literally Democrats that just registered Republican to mess with our convention system.
You can take away my positions, you can take away anything. If you try and take away my ability to vote for Phil Lyman in the next election, that's where you cross the line. Go Phil.
So my other concern here is that we're disenfranchising the very voters who put these two people in place. They were voted into their position. So we're stripping the influence of those voters, and they're being disenfranchised. And here we are. So this is a gross abuse of power.